What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1994 Dodge Spirit FFV. Up front is a 2.5 liter inline 4, and down below is a 3-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this Dodge Spirit because I've already driven a Dodge Spirit here on the channel, and actually not that long ago. And so you might be thinking, Zach, why would you film another? Well, this car is incredibly special because of that FFV. FFV stands for Flex Fuel Vehicle. This vehicle from Chrysler back in the day was designed and built to run off of methanol. And so we'll dive into that here in a second, but they're really rare and I'm very excited to share it with you. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 2.5 liter inline 4. Well, there are other Dodge Spirits that came with the 2.5 liter inline 4. It's not really that special. And there was even a turbo option. And so in order to produce this vehicle that can run on methanol, they actually robbed some parts from the turbo, like the intake, and gave it multi-port fuel injection. And they had to upgrade everything under the hood to stainless steel because methanol is actually very, very corrosive. There's also a sensor in the gas tank that will read the percentage of methanol in the fuel, and so it will advance and retard the timing of the engine depending on how much of that tank is methanol. So it's really, really cool. Now, like I said, they did not sell a whole lot of these, and honestly, the only info I can find is from this outdated website that the bottom left corner says 1999. I can only assume that was probably one of the last times it was updated, and it does have some cool pictures and info, like that it needs specific engine oil just to the FFV and not any other Dodge Spirit. It also has different valve guide seals in order to stand up to the methanol, and these are less fuel efficient than a standard Dodge Spirit because ethanol doesn't contain as much burning power as just straight up gasoline. And so the advantages of methanol, Dodge was still trying to find that out. This was a sort of work in progress vehicle. But B, they run a lot cleaner. And so back in the 90s and early 2000s, a lot of companies were starting to test out flex fuels or alternative fuels. I also reviewed here on the channel a 2003 Chevy Cavalier that could run on compressed natural gas. And so this was Dodge's attempt. Methanol did have its perks of being able to run and idle within city limits and produce a lot less smog. The tailpipe of a methanol vehicle is a lot cleaner than a standard gasoline vehicle. However, this is flex fuel because they didn't want you to get stranded if methanol ever became hard to find, like it is here today where I am located. You can run the vehicle completely on gasoline, and so that's what I'm doing here today. There isn't any methanol currently in the tank. However, if I did put some in, that sensor would figure it out and start tuning the engine either way. Like I said, paired to it is a standard 3-speed automatic transmission, nothing new there, and of course it is front-wheel drive. How does it feel to drive the methanol flex fuel Dodge Spirit? Well, it drives like any other Dodge Spirit. This particular one is in better condition than the previous one that I filmed here on the channel. And so it does have a lot cushier of a ride. It's a lot friendlier of a car. It has working AC, and all of that brings me a lot more joy. It's actually a pretty nice handling and driving car. Even though the Spirit was towards the bottom of the hierarchy at Dodge, it still had a very nice ride, which is always pleasant to see when they don't forget about the bottom. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 4 gauges. Off to the left is my coolant temperature and speedometer, and off to the right is my fuel gauge and battery voltage. As you'll notice, it has a green fuel logo to designate that it is a flex fuel vehicle. The other Dodge Spirit that I drove did not have this. On the steering wheel, we have our cruise control options and horn buttons at the bottom. And off to the left, we have a climate control vent, headlight switch, and our rear defrost on and off. Moving on to the door, we have a latch to get in and out, and our crank for the window because these flex fuel vehicles were usually government vehicles or fleet vehicles, so they didn't have a whole lot of options, and that's clear here. Moving into the center, we have 2 climate control vents, a big cubby, our heat and AC, which, like I said, the air conditioning is working very well here today. It was recently recharged, so happy to see that. And then we do have pull-out cup holders. So we will do a big thing about this. If you could see you could obviously tell that it's not going to pass, but 1994, having cup holders at all still wasn't the standard, and so to have them here in the Spirit is very, very nice. Now moving up to the seats, and it is actually a bench seat here for the Spirit. This is the final decade where bench seats were semi-common, and so here it is here today. And I do have a passive passenger restraint for the passenger side, meaning power seatbelt. However, the driver has a standard fixed seat belt. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 1994 Flex Fuel Dodge Spirit, and I'm actually very comfortable back here. Headliner is sagging and thus touching my head, but when it's actually in its proper situation, it doesn't. My knees are not coming close to hitting the seat in front of me. Yes, this is a smaller car, but it's not a small car. And there's a big distinction in between that. I don't get any center console or any amenities back here. I don't even have power windows, much like the front, but I do have ashtrays. So thank God I can put some methanol in the tank and rip a heater on the way to Wawa for some water ice. God bless, I guess. Anyway, let's hop into the trunk and take a look at the cargo space. All right, around the back of the Dodge Spirit Flex Fuel. Same key for the ignition works for the trunk. And here it is. Nothing really too crazy. That's the nice thing about the methanol, is that it doesn't have like any weird auxiliary tanks or anything like that. You spin me right round, baby, right round. Like a record, baby, right round, right round. There we go. And there you have the spare tire. All of that work for what gain? Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I really like the look of the Dodge Spirit. I think it looks semi-decent. You don't really see them much anymore, and so it's always fun to drive one and look at one. And so if anything else, if you didn't learn anything from this video, or you hate the sound of my voice, at least you could see a car that, well, we don't see much of anymore. However, with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving a flex fuel Dodge Spirit from 1994? Well, I had to jump on this car. I actually told myself that I wouldn't film any reviews this week because I'm in the process of a lot of life updates and it's a whole mess. But this car is for sale as of the making this video, and so I had to jump on it quick. These cars don't come up nearly at all, and if they do, they've probably been modified back to a more stock layout to just get rid of the methanol system at all. This is so unique because this is a slice of very unknown history from the Dodge Corporation. And like I mentioned at the top of the video, companies were just experimenting when it came to these cars and their fuel types. What was going to be the next thing? We also saw in the late 90s, we got vehicles like the GM EV1. GM was starting to test out electric vehicles, and while a production version wouldn't come for another 10 to 15 years, or at least one that they didn't immediately take back and crush, it was a sort of who's who and who's gonna do it. There was also hydrogen car concepts. There was, like I said, compressed natural gas vehicles for fleet vehicles. Ford had a Crown Victoria that could run on compressed natural gas. There was actually a lot of innovation happening, or at least trying to happen, back in this time. And this is just one of those vehicles. This is part of that rat race that ended up, well, not turning into anything. Pretty much post-recession of 2008, we don't really see many flex fuel vehicles at all. We'll see Chevys with the branding of flex fuel, which just means they could run on ethanol, but that's pretty standard practice here, and actually most vehicles can run on some percentage of ethanol anyway, so it's not really groundbreaking, and it just sort of got worked into the fabric of everything else. Currently, we're not really seeing any testing with alternative fuel vehicles, at least in the market. This is something you could go to a Dodge dealer in 1994 and buy. Now, in 1993, they were pretty much all fleet sales, but 1994, 1995, they dwindled a little bit, and they did sell some. Obviously, this is one of them, but not very many. But still, I just think that this is so incredibly cool, and I hope that you learned today that Dodge even offered this back in 1994, because prior to this video, I was unaware myself. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Carl and Mark for letting me take out this Dodge Spirit. Such a cool piece of Dodge history, such a cool piece of automotive history that is unknown and unloved over the last 3 decades. Carl and Mark have been absolutely wonderful to work with. I've reviewed so many vehicles from them. This is just another feather in their cap, and I'm very appreciative that they let me take it out. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.